All right, y'all. So, with Future Saga very likely playing a big hand in the global Dokkan campaign, I am going to go ahead and talk about a bunch of potential EZAs that we could see. Now, usually I would do just like one video to being like, hey, I think these are all the EZAs that can happen. But I mean, these potential super EZAs especially hold a really, really big place in my like Dokkan heart. And of course, I'm sure you could tell the character that we're going to be mainly talking about here today is Physical Vegito Blue. Now, this character was very powerful both on release and, of course, as well as, his EZA too. I think this guy is just a very popular Dokkan Hall of Fame character, and I think it's very, very likely that we could see his Extreme Z Awakening during this celebration specifically. So that's really cool. And I think that it's very, very likely that he could end up being quite good. So we'll talk about him. I did ask both Twitter and YouTube how they would design his Super EZA. We'll also refresh just to get new responses here just in case. Now on YouTube end, we got 14 comments here in a few hours, and then right here we have way more on Twitter likely at 46. So we'll see what people are saying. But first, I do have my own concept I want to talk about. Now, in terms of this guy, his EZA came out in 2020 specifically, so very long time ago, where this guy got his Super EZA. I mean, it was right before, no, it was right during the 5th anniversary when this guy got his Super EZA, which is really nasty. Actually, this is also on the global version as well. I guess on JP specifically, when did this guy get his EZA? It was a couple months after that, right? Yeah, in May 2020. So you see, this guy Super Easy was like early on global, funny enough, and him being like a global Dokkan campaign kind of EZA is actually pretty cool in that regards. So my idea is basically taking AGL Super Vegito but making him way better, and we'll see what they actually will do with this character. I think it's very easy to make him busted, but in my opinion, it's better that he ends up being busted than underpowered. So let's just take a look here. So Super EZA Physical Vegito Blue, at least in terms of my concept. Now we know that his super attack effect won't change. He has 50% attack and defense for one turn. It causes immense damage to enemy. Keep in mind, this greatly raises attack here is much more powerful in Vegito Blue than a lot of other characters, because usually this 50% attack again goes just into the immense damage portion here, essentially like the super attack effect. It's not like as potent as like 50% attack and defense when attacking, unfortunately. But this effect also goes directly into the counters here. So these counters end up becoming a lot more stronger because of that. That's why like Tech Vegito's counters do insane damage, because he's stacking attack here. And again, we know they don't change these, so I'm not really expecting anything like that to happen. And you shouldn't expect it either. I don't really think it's a big deal for this guy specifically. So basic effects, I gave him just 200% attack and defense baseline. I think 200% is a very common baseline we see. I mean, again, if you take a look here at the other anniversary Super EZAs, 200% baseline, 200% baseline, 200%, and then another one with Buhan, another 200% baseline. So I think with all that being said, having 200% start of turn just makes a lot of sense to me. So launches 2 additional attacks, each of which has a great chance to become a super attack. For EZA, this is just launches an additional with a medium chance, and then a 70% chance to launch an additional that then has a 30% chance. So I did just make it very straight lined here. 2 70% additionals. I could see them doing something like additional super attack and then great chance to do an additional super attack that is a guaranteed normal. That's possible, but this is just what I went for in terms of this concept, right? 60% damage reduction is baseline is what I gave him. Guard all attacks, and then super class allies will get 2 key and 30% attack and defense, right? This is just like a little support ability that I think a lot of characters have. Just in general with these Super EZAs, they usually give them support abilities. Then, of course, 60% reduction on guard. I think it's kind of like not really a baseline, but like I think a lot of really good characters in the past year or so of Dokkan have had 60% reduction plus guard. Think of Tech Fierce, think of Int LR Broly, right? Things like that. I believe Tech Alar, Super Vegito and Gogeta have that too. Sorry about that weird thing. I sneezed at the end, and I luckily I paused the recording just in time, but I believe Gogeta and Vegeta also have that. Like, at least Gogeta can get up to 80% right, but yeah, 60% damage reduction rate plus guard. Then we see Vegito, I also should have the same thing, 60% damage reduction rate plus the guard. Again, it is just a baseline thing the characters have. So I think giving it to AGL, or not AGL, Physical LR Vegito is not really, I keep calling him LR, I think. Physical Vegito Super Easy wouldn't be a bad thing there, like overpowered or anything. Then when receiving a normal attack, damage reduction rate 20% temporarily and counters with tremendous power. Not really much changed into here. I gave him a lot of damage reduction baseline, so making this from 40% to 20% is not gonna be like a, oh, it's a nerf, right? If I kept, obviously, would have 100% reduction against normals, which, I mean, honestly, against normals, who even cares? Like, if a character had 100% reduction against normals, he would age extremely, extraordinarily well, but, like, it's not gonna break the game, I think, right? Maybe what this guy would, I guess, because it's counters, right? But, yeah. So, for every attack it performs, 5% chance to perform a critical hit up to 70%. Now, keep in mind, this also counts counters. So if we let this guy get, I don't know, counters and then his 3 attacks, right? Let's say he gets 5 counters, 3 attacks. That is already nearly like, that's actually already over halfway built up. So I don't really think that's that big of a deal, especially early on. Then 10% attack and defense for 3 turns. Keep in mind, this would be multiplicative, right? From what I'm understanding. And you know, it's funny enough, I did some of these calculations as if this was a start of turn buff. This is actually a multiplicative buff. So that's something you do want to keep in mind here. But again, imagine this guy, again, when attacking, like he could attack like, I don't know, 12 times in a turn, potentially. This guy would get 120% within that turn. That could be very nasty. In fact, I think I might take away the 3 turns buff here, just because maybe it'll be a little too potent. Or I could also remove the defense there. Here, you know what? I'm gonna remove the defense here. And then I'm just gonna keep it 10% attack for 3 turns, right? Then maybe I'll put the defense here, like 200% attack. I know I'm changing this on the fly, but because I did my calculations with the 300% defense, basically we did attack. So I'm actually gonna do this, which this looks crazy, I think, but it should be fine for the most part. Then, of course, as the first attacker in the turn, 200% attack, 300% defense when receiving an attack, then high chance of evading enemy attacks temporarily when receiving a super. I'll make this 250% actually. I'll do that. Then I'll make this, you know what I'll do? I'll do 250% attack. I know I'm changing this mid-concept, which seems very silly, but sure, why not? So in slot 1, he has the extra defense and the high chance to dodge against super specifically. Then if he's a second or third attacker in the turn, extra attack, 200% defense when attacking, then launches an additional super attack guaranteed. So he gets another one of those additional super attacks, which will further feed into his counter damage and let him do some extra damage there. I think usually in slot 1 there are less counters anyway, so that as a vice versa would be really good. But again, I guess what I could do is let's say this is again 250% here for his defense. Let me see, 1, 9, 2, 6, 6, 4. Then let's say again he will get what's it called, so this is like prepared for battle, and the fuse fighters, right, this is 10% total in terms of stats, 21930. Then of course he would actually get 250% when receiving an attack specifically. Actually, I did already mess this up, but let me read. Okay, so we're back here. I did do the math properly this time, right? Where he has 200% start of turn, the 10% from prepared for battle, and the fuse spider link, then 250% when receiving an attack. That's 635k without any support besides his own. Actually, in fact, I didn't even calculate his own support. Whatever. Anyways, let's say 650k. Right, just as a basis here. So he would take 600k damage pre-super from a 5.7 mil super, which is the hardest hitting super in red zone right now. So I think his defense would be fine here. Pre-super in a slot 1 situation where he also has a 50% chance to dodge the super attack anyways. Then he has tons of build and crit. And every time he performs 3 more super in battle, he will launch an additional super attack here. So, I mean, if we also consider, again, him post-super attack, let's say he gets 4 supers in battle, that's a 1.9 million defense with guard and 60% reduction. Which is obviously extremely good. So I think that this guy would be just fine in many situations, and he will do a lot of damage. So anyways, that's my concept for him for the most part. Again, kind of like changing things around by seeing some of the numbers and seeing like what I'm doing here. I think this would be pretty good. He would be able to do a lot of damage. I mean, this 3-turn buff will be a lot more powerful than people think it will be. But let me know what you guys are thinking here about this concept, if you think he's too strong or too weak. But we will also be taking a look here at what some people are saying. And yeah, it is funny. I did basically steal this from Glorio. This guy's like a... I think like this guy's like a hybrid of like Glorio and AGL Super Vegito. Pretty much, yeah, like just a hybrid of AGL Super Vegito and Glorio is what this guy actually is in terms of his design, which I think kind of that might be what they go for this guy. Like mixing Glorio into that AGL Super Vegito type of design, but making them more consistent against these supers, I think would be the best case scenario. But who knows? Maybe they'll be too scared of him being too powerful, and they'll be like, yeah, actually, no, too bad. Sucks to suck. Let's go ahead and read some of the comments here. Guaranteed crits. We have another concept here. Let's actually just take a look here. 250% attack and defense, 30% stats as support, 2 additional attacks each, which will have a high chance, 40% reduction, high chance to crit. For the first 3 turns, 20% reduction and guaranteed crit. For 7 turns, guards all attacks, performs additional super attack. Then for every attack received and every attack performed, they get separate 25% attack and defense up to 100%. So that is a lot of multiplicative stats there. Then when receiving a normal, 10% attack within a turn and damage reduction 40% temporarily. I think this looks good too. This probably is much more realistic than mine, but I would prefer mine because mine's better. Right? I think this is a good concept though. I think this is like something we can probably expect from this guy. I guess to be fair, he would have 60% reduction in guard early on still, which is going to be really good. And once he builds up these stats, he'll still be looking quite strong with the guard and 40% reduction because of these extra stats here. But these 2 additional high chance supers, I wonder how things will end up turning out. But yeah, no, I made mine pretty busted. I think that, you know, I look at Tech Kefla, man. And again, I don't think this guy will be good in Festival. He's not a stacking character. So, like, I've just made him really very overpowered. Like, in Red Zone and Battle Hardened Foes, basically. Tech Super Vegito. Yeah, I mean, why not? Aside from making his numbers bigger, make his supers guaranteed and add this line to his passive. All allies attacking defense 5% per attack performed within the turn. There's no way that they do that. That would be obscenely overpowered. 80% reduction with guard, counter, 70% additional super attack, 300% base, 400% defense when attacking. I think this is a bit much. 80% flat DR with guard. I don't see that happening. 60% just makes a lot more sense to me. Obviously, if it's like 80% against normals only, then yeah. But like 80% flat? No way. No way. No way. Passive better not be anything like Int Janemba, Angel Super Vegito, or Sir Gogeta. I think these guys were a little overhated. Maybe not really Angel Super Vegito as much, but like Gogeta and Janemba were a lot better than people give them credit for. And again, at the end of the day, keep in mind, Super EZs are designed to be extra characters on the team. They're not designed to be your slot 2 character, like for the most part. Like if you need to run them in slot 2, yeah. But they're really designed to be like floating supports, and I think you could very clearly see that for the most part. So make him the best TUR for old time's sakes. Wasn't playing when he released originally, but his EZA was way fun and good. Yeah, his EZA was crazy, but his original release, dude, him as like his leader skill was crazy back then, because this was like when we had like AGL types key 3 and 70%, tech types key 3 and 70%. Then this guy came out super class to key 3 and 50%. Then you're able to run freaking AGL Super Vegito, tech god tanks as we called him back in the day, right? A bunch of these like super good super class characters, Blue Cow and Goku. Like, I wonder if we could, like, if we look very back in the day to like super class, like really far back. In fact, we're actually gonna look at this right now, and we're gonna go by release date, which I think I do have a sort of release date. If we go all the way back here, like you had physical VB, this Blue Falcon Goku, you had Angel Super Vegito, you had Tech Go Tanks. I'm sure there's other characters people ran as well. Aster Gogeta people probably still ran. Later on, we had In Sort of Hope Trunks was a character. We had this Blue Vegeta. And then, of course, we did end up getting the Year 2, Super Saiyan 4s, which just massively power crept that. But you guys get the point. It was pretty crazy having the super class leader skill with how powerful this Vegeta was on release. So that was really nice. We would wait for next year. I don't know. I'm pretty sure he's going to use a soon. High chance to dodge temporarily when receiving a super. Yeah, I gave him that. I think like that physical Janemba passive would be huge on this guy, right? Would be really good. And even then, I still made him enough to tank supers. Realistically, he doesn't need to tank supers. I think especially if you consider him on a team with like a Tech Vegito. Like there's so much scouter kind of going around that team. So give him additionals like Tech Vegito does counters. Just do AGO Vegito, but don't fuck it up. Service, end of service level power on his counters, huh? Guard, DR, 10% attack per attack received infinitely. Then like 50% attack and defense per attack performed in the same turn. 50 mil counters. Okay, let's see here. Basic effects, 300% attack, 200% defense, and 3 additionals with a great chance super. Great chance to launch an additional super, 25% reduction. When keys 12, 50% chance to perform a crit, launch an additional super. For every super attack performed in the turn, extra stats here, then 10% chance to crits. When receiving a normal attack, 60% reduction, counters, and then a 50% attack and defense. I mean, being fair with this low amount of damage reduction and no support, like this, the rest of this kit honestly would kind of make up for it a little because of the amount of supers you could do. You would get incredibly high defense to where even just having this 25% reduction would probably make him safe against a lot of supers, right? So you went 200% here, 50% per attack, and then he gets another multiplicative 50% here. But then he's doing what, 3, 4, 5, and then he can count 6 and 7, like his first super, then his hidden potential. That could make things extremely nasty for this guy's stats, right? Especially when we consider support. I think the only thing I would add is like support, just because Super Z's usually do get that. Let's take a look at some of the YouTube comments actually, just in case here. So, also guard for 4 turns at the start of battle with no conditions. Just make him the best units. 200% guard, 80% reduction. 80% reduction. I just like, oh, against normals, yes, but this guy wants him to be really good. Ferocious power. I do not think they would change the capture damage to ferocious, but that's just me. Make sure he doesn't end up like physical Super Vegito. 100% reduction against normals. That would be very funny. Just like nothing else, but just a normals invincibility, right? Oh, here's the guard person. Had the additional guaranteed, second guaranteed additional, then 80% chance to a third additional, 70% chance to a fourth. Every super he raises his defense and attack for counters. Guard all attacks, high chance to nullify and counter super attacks. They would not add that, but they could add a dodge. 30% damage reduction, 40% reduction against normals to counter ferocious power. They did change the Gohan's counter damage, I believe, right? If I'm not mistaken, the Super Saiyan to not Super Saiyan 2, this Gohan right here. If I'm not mistaken, they did change his counter damage, right? No, they didn't actually. Is there a character that they changed the counter damage on EZA? I don't recall at the top of my head. So I don't think they changed Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta's. Vegito stayed the same, if I'm not mistaken. Tremendous power. I don't think that they would make normal attacks normal tech counters have an extra damage cap. Yeah, they usually don't change that, so I would not really expect it. Okay. 90% reduction against normals, 50% chance dodge super scouter if HP is 80% or less starting from the third turn. Forces enemy super attack for 5 turns. Obviously he'll need more, but baseline. I don't really think he needs a scouter, which is really funny. Just don't make it like AGO Vegetos. That's what a lot of people are saying here. Okay. 30% attack and defense per super attack. 2 guaranteed additional supers after 1 counter. Let's see, another concept here. So 200% stats. Launches an additional attack that has a great chance to be super. Then another additional with a great chance. 50% reduction, 5 turn guard. Superclass allies key 3 and 30% stats. 40% reduction on counters with ferocious power against normals. 150% attack and defense when attacking. When there's a Tower Fuse Spider category ally, he gets 120% attack and defense and a great chance to crit. After receiving 5 attacks, guard 80% attack and defense, and then more support. I actually would like this design, actually. This would be pretty good. This would be pretty good. Guard 50% reduction is pretty good itself. He has a lot of start of turn here. Besides this, of course, but actually he would technically get this after he counters, right? And then this right here, he would have start of turn 2. Like, if the first attack is a super, he wouldn't get this. That's the only thing, right? That's pretty much it. Good. Both of his additionals just 70%, 30% reduction based. Yeah, support here. Seeing a lot of the similar things. Let's see this right here. 240%, 60% reduction. Additional attack that has a launches an additional super attack, and then an additional attack that has a medium chance of becoming a super. Then 2 other additionals, each of which have a great chance to be super. 25% reduction against normals, and then encounters tremendous power. So that's what, 85% reduction against normals. 20% attack, 80% attack and defense when attacking a 12 more key. Per attack performed, 50% up to 250. 60% crit chance that he'll build up to, then key 1 permanently. Then where there are 2 or more Future Saga or Fuse Spider allies on the team, all allies key 1 and 40% attack and defense, launch an additional super attack. This would also be good to me. Like, the large amount of additional supers plus what he gets here, 60% reduction. His stats are super huge. He would be pretty good as well. Like, you know, he doesn't need mega, like, damage reduction and guard as long as his raw stats are high enough. And just eyeballing it, these raw stats would be more than high enough, I'm thinking. So, yeah, his counter damage will also be insane there. In English and probably some stats if you're feeling crazy. Yeah, okay. This would be the last one I'll read here, and then we'll kind of, I think, end things. So, 200% attack and defense, launches an additional super attack. Great chance to launch an additional attack that has a great chance to be a super. Fuse fighters or future key 3 and 40% stats. When receiving a normal, 80% damage reduction temporarily encounters with tremendous power. Then per attack received within the turn, 50% attack and defense up to 250%. Then chance to perform a critical hit, 20% up to 100%. So this will reset every turn, but he builds up. Then when he receives a super, 20% attack and defense, 40% reduction and guard. So you just give him like a fail safe against super specifically. I'm not sure if they would do that much. I could see him have a fail safe of like 50% chance to dodge against supers, but I'm not sure if it'll be like he receives a super attack and then he gets all these buffs. I mean, that would be really cool, but I'm not really too sure. I guess it would be fine. Like, it wouldn't be the biggest deal ever, especially because he's a character that you want to put where the most attacks are ideally with his counters. So I would be fine with this, of course, right? I'm thinking they probably wouldn't do something as much as this, but who knows? At the same time, maybe they wouldn't make him tank enough. Well, I scrolled down and we see another concept. So, okay, this will be the actual last one. Trust me, guys. So this is, okay, let's see here. P2, 250%, guard, additional attack, high chance to be additional super attack. No, wait. Additional super, and then another high chance to launch additional super. 50% crit chance, and then 40% attack and defense support. 150% attack and defense when attacking here. When receiving a normal, 50% reduction, counters with tremendous power. Launches an additional attack with a high chance to be super, then 2 ki for 2 turns for all allies. 8% chance to crit for every attack performed permanently. 25% attack and defense up to 100% permanently that he builds up to. When receiving a super, high chance of evading an enemy's attack temporarily as the first attacker, and then as the second or third attacker, a great chance to evade enemy's attack. Actually, I do like this. This is pretty cool. If there's another Battle Wits, Future Saga, or Superclass Realm of Gods ally on rotation, he has a Scouter and 50% attack and defense. Then, if HP 70% or below start of turn, Scouter for 3 turns. That's pretty nasty. And then 30% reduction, which would be on top of his... See, he only has damage here against the normals, but he has guard. Interesting design. I do like this too. Yeah, this would be good too. Good job. Good job. A lot of nice concepts here, actually. I think it's very easy to make a character like this very busted, like I did. I think I probably made mine too good, but who cares, man? I want this guy to be really good, so I did go all out. But let me know what you guys are thinking, what you want to see from Physical Vegeta Blue Super EZA. I'll have a bunch of videos like this coming out within the upcoming days or so, but I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.